Hello everyone, welcome to East-West Horizon. Today, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov met with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He pointed out that the current international and geopolitical situation is changing. As long as both countries persevere, the Sino-Russian friendship will be unbreakable. The world will see a new international order of pluralism and democracy. That is to say, in the Sino US confrontation, which was originally caused by resisting the rise of China from the United States side, Russia is taking a side and unexpectedly accelerated the change of the world order. Perhaps a pluralistic, democratic, and fairer new international order will emerge after the Russian-Ukraine war. The rise of a great nation and a new international order will hardly evolve peacefully. Yes, the Russian-Ukraine war, manipulated by the United States, unexpectedly accelerated the formation of a new order. Because it is in present tense, it's not over yet, so we will have to wait and see. In fact, the rise of China is a fact that cannot be kept a low profile any longer. The rivalry between China and the US is deepening at every level. The world's current most powerful country will never let any other country surpass it easily. Inevitably, the blocking strategy continues to unfold. Under the pressure of the midterm election in the United States, the Republican conservatives are hawkish and strong, hoping to show diplomatic power in order to restore the United States to be great again. In the meanwhile, the Democratic Party would not like to show its soft attitude on issues about China. According to an analysis by the Peterson Institute for International Economics, a Washington-based think tank, China has reached 57% of its pledged purchases of U.S. goods and services in 2020 and 2021. As part of the deal, the Trump administration maintains high tariffs on about $370 billion in annual imports from China. The Biden administration has retained most of the taxation. If you look at the data, trade between China and the U.S. is quite active. For example, U.S. exports to China rose 17% in 2020 and 11% last year in 2021. In addition to this, U.S.-China bilateral investment has slowed but continues to flow in both directions across the Pacific. Just looking at the data, the relationship is at a pretty good level. At the same time, China is very busy and productive. China's accession to the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership and a formal application to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership is strengthening trade with countries other than the United States. However, the relationship between Sino-US trade is neither what the Republican president thinks nor what the Democratic president hopes. Adding tariffs will not change the status quo of the U.S. deficit. For nearly half a century, the United States has run a trade deficit in most years. The huge U.S. trade deficit was not created and will not end because of China. From a monetary point of view, the huge U.S. trade deficit is the inevitable result of using the surplus savings of the other countries to maintain a consumption level that exceeds its own production capacity. In the bilateral trade between China and the United States, although the surplus is in China, the interest lies on both sides. The U.S. not only profit from it, but also expanded its market because of it. In addition, the U.S. has also received a large number of funds from China, including various types of Chinese investment in the United States, the U.S. Treasury bond held by China, and the profits made by U.S. financial institutions from investing in China. According to statistics, by the end of 2017, the total capital inflow to the United States from China reached $1.37 trillion US dollars. In the past 40 years, both sides have gained huge and balanced profits from cooperation. If only one party benefits and the other party suffers, the cooperation between the two parties cannot last for decades. Since Biden took office, he has focused on the big government by increasing spending plans to stimulate the economy, focusing on the governance goals of recovering the economy. The Federal Reserve has also resorted to large-scale or even uncapped QE policies, and its balance sheet has soared from about $4 trillion in early 2020 to rapidly surpassing the $8 trillion marks in mid-2021. The Biden administration's China trade policy serves the goal of reshaping global leadership and expanding its competitive advantage with China. Among them, the decoupling of science and technology has always been a weapon used by any government to surpass China's rise. Although the United States still occupies the leading position in chip industry, it does not dare to sit back and relax. U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai on March 30th called on Congress to allocate $52 billion to invest in U.S. domestic semiconductor production. Katherine Tai said, "To ensure that our industries remain competitive, we must deploy new instruments of trade at home, the purpose of which is to defend our economic interest and to invest strategically in our economy." However, the U.S. manufacturing industry has been hollowed out, and the supply chain is in jeopardy. The hollowing out of American manufacturing is a fact that everyone has to admit. Although several U.S. presidents have hoped that manufacturing will return to the U.S., the minimum wage system, poor basic education levels, and strong labor unions are all the obstacles to the manufacturing industry's inability to grow in the United States. Some of the goods exempt from the tariffs this time are mainly chemicals, bicycle parts, electronic parts, seafood, etc., which are concentrated in the fields of intermediate components and consumer goods, which can play a certain role in reducing inflation. Protectionism, nativism, and the supremacy of democratic law are U.S. trade policies formulated by former President Trump. Tariff war is one of the core contents of the U.S. trade policy. However, as U.S. trade negotiator, Katherine Tai admitted the previous approach to dealing with China's economy and trade issues failed to address the fundamental concerns of the U.S. side. The American Chamber of Commerce, China Center, and Rhodium Consulting pointed out that if the existing 25% tariff rate covers all bilateral trade between China and the United States will lose $119 billion a year by 2025 and $250 billion a year by 2030. The United States lost nearly $1 trillion in economic growth potential. Double-edged sword hurts both countries. In August 2021, more than 30 U.S. business groups sent a letter to the Biden administration saying that the imposition of tariffs on China has dragged down U.S. economic growth, calling on the government to restart trade negotiations with China and start the reduction and exemption process. Under pressure, the Democratic Party hopes to reduce voters' dissatisfaction in the midterm elections. So it is expected to restart a good international trade order under the Democratic Party's presidency. However, The big government, mad money printing, and the record high inflation rate are not something that can confuse voters. Many expect the Republicans to win the midterm elections by a large margin. The United States is not a monolithic country. The United States is a polarized country ruled by two different parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Many negotiations between China and the United States will be a waste of time without a clear understanding of the polarizing background in the United States. If the Republican Party returns to power, its hawkish foreign policy will still portend more difficult trade with China. However, if the Russian-Ukraine war eventually leads to the formation of a new international order and accelerates the U.S. acceptance of a second place in the world, it will be a win of this ongoing war. Always remember that we are in a transitional period. Today's news is tomorrow's history. What about the future? Please witness history with us. Thank you for being with us. See you next time.